If your listing doesn't sell, all of a sudden they're like, that photo's too light in color. Ooh, that video, I don't know, it's too long. The description, it's terrible. You become the punching bag to everything. And that's when things get so nuts.
We talk about the social media stuff all the time. Let's talk about what's going on behind the scenes, the grit, all the bullshit, all the stuff, the putting out fires, all the stuff that we have to do every day to maintain this lifestyle, to maintain this business, to, if you're on top and you're number one in your area last year, how do you maintain that this year? So go a little bit deeper on that.
It's great that you asked that, because I think that consistency is, I think about Darren Hardy, because he always said there is no willpower in life, there's why power. So you have to constantly think of what you want and why you want it to keep doing the things. It's so easy not to do the things. Like, you can have things coming at you. What do they call that? Being reactive, where you're like, okay, getting referrals or getting buyers or whatever. So that you're just getting whatever the world's giving you. But if you're being proactive and you're sitting open houses that are at a higher price point, or hanging out in different areas, or joining better volunteer groups, or organizations that have a higher net worth of people, you're naturally going to fall into being able to react to higher quality leads. But that's because you're being proactive about changing your lifestyle. So that goes along with, everything that we do, we don't want to really do any of it. Like, you want to have the fun weekends and nice dinners and the drinks and the vacations. But if you did that every day, you wouldn't like that anymore anyways. So you have to have some balance to it. But just thinking of, like, and I get it. I get jaded and complacent in a lot of ways with each level. And that's where, the drive comes to keep pushing for more, like, building a team, building a brokerage, buying more properties. And I don't know if everybody's necessarily built with that kind of tenacious hunger per se, but also it's something that's coached or trained. Because I don't think if I hadn't done years at Tom Ferry or all the spiritual work I'd done in Santa Monica, that I would be where I was. Like, I was kind of like a overweight, sad, little, like, lost person when I was in my early 20s. And it took a lot of years to get even remotely, like at least 10 years. Like, I grew up with amazing parents, like wonderful people, very good to me. They didn't hand me everything in life, but they did buy me like an older Jeep for my first car, not a brand new Jeep. And there was never a struggle with money or anything. But when I was in real estate, I must have been like 25, 26 in 2011 maybe, and the market was really tough, and I wasn't making the sales. I didn't have a ton of money, and I've never even said this publicly. My car got repossessed, and it was to my parents' address. And never forget that day, my mom calls me and she's like crying. They're here to pick up your car. And I'm like, what? What's wrong with it? As the 800 numbers are calling and calling and calling. She's like, they're repossessing your car. And, after it all settled down, my mom looks at me, a few weeks later, and she's like, why didn't you ask us for help? I was like, Mom, that's not how you raised me. It was a disappointing moment, but like, I wasn't ever asking for anybody to bail me out of things. So going through that hard time, having no money, from that point forward, I was like, never again in my life will I ever get here, ever. Like, I'm going to do nothing but make my parents proud, not asking for handouts. And that was really, maybe that was the pivotal moment.
I was going to say.
Probably. It's funny, people think like, oh, you're just 10-year, overnight success, or you're just so fit and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I wasn't always there. Like, I had to work really hard to get here. And the pain of that old life is probably what pushes me to keep doing the calls, keep going to the gym, keep reading the books, keep being extra nice to my husband all the time, calling my mom, making time, making plans with friends, writing down my goals.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there again.
Yeah. You accept what you tolerate. So that's,
exactly.
Ed Milet was talking about goals and standards and saying
oh my God,
that goes hands in hand. Did you read the book one more?
Yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
I love his story. Yeah.
He was talking about goal planning and standards that you set. And he said, if that's a standard that you're willing to fall below, then that's the goal that you're not going to achieve. So it's like both sides of the coin, right? Goals and standards. So it's like you had that experience, and there could be, the bigger Keri that has her car repossessed still out there, but it's the choices that you made in 2011 that made you the person you are today. And sometimes making those choices in those hard times are hard to be consistent with. So how did you actually keep that while you were in a dark place, while you were in that confusion in your 20s?
The people I was I was constantly trying to find positive groups of people to be around who were motivated and committed and wanted me to be around. So I'd always have to show up in those environments. And yeah, I mean, your good friends that are doing well in life will hold you to standards without even meaning to. Like the time I was 10 minutes late to see one of my good friends, Charity, she literally left. I was never ever late to see her again. So yeah, you get what you tolerate. Yeah. Someone shows up late and you still wait for them. That was another Darren Hardy thing. Again, I think it's drilling into what you want and understanding that this is just what life is like. It just is a formula where you have to be intentional, you have to think positive, you have to be planned, and not everyone can do it. And that's why there's such a big gap between the rich and the rest. And that's why there is the 10% or the 1%. And it takes work. It's still constant work to keep growing and keep pushing.
It takes work to get there, and then it takes work to stay there.
Yeah, what the fuck? When can we retire?
Yeah, when does this work stop? I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I think it's probably going to keep us on the same track, but to touch upon a little bit in the lightning round, when you were talking about taking the emotion out of it and being unattached to the outcome, because I think that's a topic that we haven't talked about with a lot of people yet, and I think it's something that a lot of people need to know about or find themselves in that situation, because we are all so passionate about what we do, and sometimes even more passionate when it's your own brokerage, or because you're just probably spending more hours in the business or more hours in your day. You know, it's funny. I find sometimes if it's a listing and I'll get an offer that's way below asking price, sometimes my immediate response is I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you incompetent? You're going to make me look stupid. Did you not look at the comparables? My seller would never, ever even look at this. Like, what are you out of your mind? And then somehow I'll delay a little bit and I'll get it in front of the seller, because of course we have to present all offers, fiduciary responsibilities.
Yes, we do.
A lot of times does not always have the same response that I do. And it's funny because I find myself in this situation where I'm being reactive and getting emotional about a property that's not mine. And the seller's sometimes willing to entertain it or to work with it, depending on their situation. So how do you make it so that you're not attached to the outcome? How do you try to take some of the emotion out of it in your business?
Yeah. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, though, because you're just like, and then you're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. I don't care. Whatever. But, again, it's the experience, the repetition, being attached to the outcome for sales, for clients, for listings, whatever, really is, I think, the biggest downfall for a career as a real estate agent. Like, there's just... And it's funny dealing with agents on the other side. I think agents are more important in my market than the clients themselves. Like, the agent relationships has really helped propel my success with my clients. When they like you and you bring the offer to the table, they're much more excited to work with you. A huge thing. Don't ever be a dick to another agent in your market. Yep. Somebody else will be a dick to them for you if you need that, but not you. You can find somebody. But I'm just saying, like, you really have to treat them all with respect, because how many times you're negotiating with an agent and they're like, well, my client's never going to go for that. That's ridiculous. You must be crazy. This is stupid. And then they call their client's like, that's great. Yeah, let's sign it. So you can't speak for your client ever. And your opinion is only your opinion based on your circumstances. And there are so many times, especially lately, just with all the changes, where I get so frustrated with a client. I'm like, I sent them the comps. Like, I'm so good at what I do. Like, I'm getting them this house. They just need to come up 30,000 more. And then they're like, we'll pass. And the agent's like, wow, I've got 40 offers. They're going to pass. And I'm like, yeah, where's the vodka? But like, you sometimes get it, but then you remember it doesn't matter, because a few minutes later, another client calls you with their own saga, and then another deal and another deal. So there's always something else going on. Then in reality, who cares what's happening in that moment? Because if you look back at every sale you ever had, didn't you think it was always going to fall apart every single day? Right?
Yeah, right.
You never thought you'd sell the listing. You never thought you'd get that buyer in escrow. They all sell. Some of them don't, very small percentage, but they all sell. So really remembering that, reminding myself that is really important, because you want to be the hero. If your listing doesn't sell, all of a sudden they're like, that photo's too light in color. Ooh, that video, I don't know, it's too long. The description, it's terrible. Why'd you use that as you become the punching bag to everything. And that's when things get so nuts. So, hey, I sent this to you in the beginning. You love my video, but we can tweak it. We can do it,
Well, you always have that first the 2-week like honeymoon stage, right?
Oh yeah.
You're
They
flying
love it.
high until day 14.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Day
yeah.
14, it's like, how come you didn't do an
All
open
your
house?
fault.
Yeah.
There was somebody in our market recently. I don't know if Nikki told you about it. They were sitting, they were trying to sell a townhouse in Hoboken.
Okay.
They were doing 7-hour open houses.
For sale by owner?
No,
Oh my
an
God.
agent.
An agent.
An agent. 7-hour open houses on like Wednesdays and
Hilarious.
Tuesdays. And then even when it went under contract, they were making the guy hold it open. And they're like, well, just for backups. And I'm like, dude, you're doing this like just to pick up leads, right? Like we can all, like
That's
agent
insane.
to agent, I get it. You're trying to just pick up more leads, right? And he's like, no, the seller's making me do it. I'm like, dude, get some balls, man.
Sometimes that's what they need. Wine and cheese open house. Nobody comes. Seller wanted it. Okay.
It's funny. It's, you think you wouldn't, you're just attached to the outcome because you're new in the business. You've only got one deal pending and this one has to go through so that you can, make your first check or your next check.
True.
But people still are attached to the outcome even when they're, 3, 4, 5 years into the business.
Well, there's two sayings, right? Generate so you don't have to tolerate.
Nope.
So the more that you have going on, it's like, were you really pissed that that transaction fell apart because you did everything you possibly could? Or is it because you had other transactions that you produced instead of spending that time thinking you were safe?
Yeah.
So
It's a bummer when things cancel. It's always sad, but when you've got a bunch of other deals, it's the whole thing. Generate so you could, what was that? Generate so you could tolerate?
Generate so you don't have to tolerate.
Right. Okay. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. It's so true. It's like when you're dating and you're single. Patty Stanger, that million dollar matchmaker, she always used to say a pair and a spare, which I'm not sure the bowling reference, but there's always saying like one that you really like and then like a backup and something else. But basically, you have to have multiple options to make you sane. I think it's a lot of mind trickery.
Yeah. And one thing that you were saying is like when you're talking to other agents and they're like, my seller, my buyer, my this, my that. One practice that we always try to do is detaching ownership of that, right? It's like the seller, the buyer. And it's like when you're communicating it with the other agent, you're able to actually use it as a skill to develop trust with the other agent as well.
I'm writing that down. I don't really say that but that is, I'm going to talk to agents about that. I'm like, let's just say it's let's like
the seller.
we're a team. Like they're not really ours. They're just out there in crazy town trying to negotiate and they think they're right and whatever. Their baby's not cuter. But you and me, like we need to do this together.
I'm going to reference this again. Robert Greene was talking about, he wrote the 48 Laws of Power and he wrote the book Seduction. He's like, if you want it, turn your back on it. And so it's a lot of those things. It's like, if you really want it, then you don't have to be so clingy onto it. It's not, there's no ownership there. So then at that point in time, you're able to get more control and they instantly are attracted to you at that point in time.
Of course. Energy is huge. It's same with past clients. People are like, well, that's my client. I'm like, the day you close escrow, they are now out in the world and anyone can call them, meet them, knock on their door. You have to earn their business again every single day after that transaction. Like there shouldn't even be the word past clients. Like they're all just future clients or currently under contract clients, because you have to constantly earn their business and show them that you are the best agent for them.